my name is Cadence, and I am a Girl Scout ambassador with Gateway Council. This video is about dating violence to help better educate teens and those in need on dating violence education and relationship violence education. I hope this information is helpful. Dating violence is a pattern of assaultive and controlling behaviors that one person uses against another person in order to gain or maintain power and control in the relationship. The abuser intentionally behaves in ways that cause fear and humiliation to control the other person. Victims and abusers come from all social and economic backgrounds, faith communities, and racial and ethnic backgrounds. Abuse also occurs in same-gender relationships. Both females and males can be victims of dating violence, but numerous studies reveal the reality that the majority of victims are females, usually more than 95%. Throughout this video, victims are often referred to as females and abusers as male. That reference does not change the fact that every survivor, male or female, deserves support, options, resources, and safety. Abusers attempt to control their partner in a variety of ways. The following is a list of common controlling behaviors. Isolating, trying to cut off the victim's relationship with family and friends, using jealousy to justify their behavior. Emotional, humiliating the victim in front of friends or making the victim feel guilty when she confronts the abuser about the abuse. Intimidation, making the victim fearful by using threatening behavior, abuse of animals, verbal aggression, or destruction of property. Coercion, threatening to find someone else if the dating partner doesn't comply with the abuser's wishes or demands. Threats to harm self or others if their dating partner leaves the relationship. Physical, using or threatening to use physical assaultive behaviors such as hitting, shoving, grabbing, slapping, beating, kicking, etc. Sexual, touching or forcing the victim to engage in unwanted sexual activity. At the beginning stages of dating relationship, these behaviors may not be apparent, or the use of them is so subtle that they may be mistaken for the abuser's caring and concern. For example, the abusers may suggest that the couple spend all their time together because when they are apart, they will miss each other. If the victim spends time with other friends, the abuser may appear to be sad or disappointed. As the relationship becomes more and more involved, the abuser may gradually escalate the use of these behaviors to include severe jealousy, which is not a sign of love, as many in our society do believe. The cycle of violence is a model developed to explain the complexity and coexistence of abuse with loving behaviors. It helps those who have never experienced domestic violence understand that breaking the cycle of violence is much more complicated than just getting out of the relationship. There are 3 phases in the cycle of violence. 1, tension building phase. 2, acute or crisis phase. And 3, calm or honeymoon phase. Without intervention, the frequency and severity of the abuse tends to increase over time. Over a period of time, there may be changes to the cycle. The honeymoon phase may become shorter, and the tension and violence may become longer or increase. Some victims report that they never experience an apologetic or loving abuser, but simply see a decrease in tension before the start of a new phase. Whereas other abusers report that their partner immediately transitions to the next phase as their relationship continues. As the cycle starts, the victim starts going in and out of the relationship. It often takes many attempts to make a final decision to leave their relationship for good. Feelings of guilt, insecurity, and concern for children's well-being play a major role in the victim's decision-making process. The cycle of violence is a tool developed by researcher Lenore Walker and detailed in her book, The Battered Women, published in 1979. Walker created this tool to describe the circular nature of battering and its effect on victims. What are the early warning signs of teen dating violence? Researchers who study teen dating violence have identified several warning signs that a dating relationship might be likely to turn violent. These warning signs do not mean a relationship will definitely turn violent. However, if you notice several of them in your relationship or partner, you may need to reevaluate your dating relationship. These warning signs include excessive jealousy, constant checking in with you or making you check in with him or her, attempts to isolate you from friends and family, insulting or putting down people that you care about, is too serious about the relationship too quickly, has had a lot of prior relationships and blames all the problems from the previous relationships on the previous partners, is very controlling. This may include giving you orders, telling you what to wear, and trying to make all the decisions for you, and telling you who and what you can and cannot do. Blames you when he or she treats you badly by telling you all the ways you provoked him or her to cause those actions or his or hers lash out in behavior. Does not take responsibility for their own actions. Has an explosive temper or blows up on you quite often. Pressures you into sexual activity which you are not comfortable in taking part in. Has a history of fighting, hurting animals, or brags about mistreating other people, or brags about mistreating other relationships. Believes strongly in stereotypical gender roles for males and females. You worry about how your partner will react to the things you say, or you are afraid of provoking your partner in any way with anything you do. May own or use weapons. Refers and refuses to let you end the relationship and refers to prior problems that you caused. What can you do if you notice these signs in your relationship? Trust your intuition. If you believe there may be a problem in your relationship, you are probably right. Do not ignore the warning signs. Research has found that those who have a tendency to engage in relationship violence escalate their abuse over time. In other words, it gets worse over time, not better. Spend time with people you care about other than your partner. Stay in touch with your friends and your family. Keep up with activities that you enjoy and that make you feel good about yourself. It is always okay to put yourself first above your partner. Never be afraid to do stuff that you love. You might consider looking into what help or resources might be available in your school or area. You may also want to consider calling a domestic violence hotline or shelter for more information before you or your family experience a crisis. Although most people assume they'll never, ever be in an abusive relationship, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 26% of women and 15% of men experience intimate partner violence before the age of 18. Most teens in abusive relationships don't know where to seek help, and almost none of them tell their parents. Relationship abuse isn't limited to a certain group. Abuse affects people of every gender, race, class, sexual orientation, and nationality. Abuse is a way of controlling another person, and even abuse that doesn't leave physical marks can have a profound emotional toll and consequences on a person, and can put the person being abused in serious danger. Adolescents and adults are often unaware about how regularly dating abuse occurs. One study by Chose Respect found that 1 in 4 adolescents reports verbal, physical, emotional, or sexual abuse each year. Recent studies show that 1/3 of teens experience some form of abuse in dating relationships. More than half of the teens surveyed know someone or have been abused. Especially because of these kinds of statistics, it is paramount to recognize the danger signs of an abusive relationship so that you can make sure you get out of that situation as soon as possible. Why people stay in an abusive relationship. People stay in abusive relationships for a variety of reasons. Many people in abusive relationships are usually in denial. They cling to the myths of dating violence, that their partner will never do it again. Saying they'll never do it again is very, very little chance of it actually happening, because violence is a pattern of behaviors. Rarely does someone abuse their partner, only once. That they are not being abused. Dating abuse does include physical and sexual violence, people. It's a real thing. But it also can include emotional and verbal abuse, which includes criticism, insults, and threats. That they will leave when the time is right. People may stay in an abusive relationship out of fear, being alone, emotional, dependency problems, confusion, low self-esteem, not realizing that it's abuse, or a belief that the abuser will eventually change. That it only happens to girls. Not true. Males can also be victims in controlling and abusive relationships. They can feel embarrassed to confess that they're being abused because they, the abuser, and other people sometimes have a bias that only females are abused. The dating violence cycle. The dating violence cycle repeats this pattern. Tension, such as criticism, yelling, swearing, angry gestures, coercion, or threats. Violence, such as physical and sexual attacks or threats. Seduction, such as apologies, promises to change, or gifts. Jealousy and possessiveness are two of the most common warning signs of dating abuse. Abusers use them to control the other person's behavior. These elements can keep the cycle in motion. Here are some important facts you probably didn't know about dating violence. Dating violence is a very real issue for many students, teens, and adults. Nationally, approximately 12% of heterosexual high school boys and girls report having been physically victimized by a dating partner in the previous year. This percentage is as high as 40% in some areas of the country. Approximately 13% of gay adolescent girls and 9% of gay adolescent boys report having been physically victimized by a dating partner in the previous year. Victimization from psychological dating abuse is even higher, with approximately 29% of heterosexual high school students and 20% of gay high school students reporting having been psychologically abused by a date in the previous year. Dating abuse is beginning as early as the 6th grade. Adults who use violence with their dating partners often begin doing so during adolescence, with the first episode typically occurring by the age of 15. 7 young women between the age of 14 and 17 represent 38% of those victimized by date rape. Rapes by occupancies account for 60% of all rapes reported to rape crisis centers. Both girls and boys are victims of dating abuse, through girls receive more severe injuries from dating abuse than boys do. Both girls and boys are perpetrators of dating abuse, though girls tend to use less severe forms of dating abuse than boys typically do. Abuse almost always reoccurs in a relationship. It just doesn't go away. Most abuse gets more severe over significant periods of time. And here are some popular misconceptions on dating violence or myths that you probably didn't know. Imagine being in a high school hallway, watching crowds of teenagers traveling to their classes, as a blonde girl and her tall boyfriend walk by hand in hand. You might be impressed with how close they seem, but if you look a little closer, you'd see that something is terribly wrong with our hypothetical couple. She is wearing long sleeves on a humid day to hide the bruises on her arms, where he squeezed her when he was angry. She also has stopped curling her long blonde hair and now wears it in a simple ponytail. Her boyfriend tells her she looks better this way, but really, he doesn't want her long, beautiful golden hair to attract attention at school from other guys or girls. When her phone vibrates with an incoming text message, he grabs it from her and reads it. He has all her passwords and monitors all her communication with friends and family, even the messages from her parents. The message on her phone is from a friend. She wants to come over after school. He tells her to say she can't hang out tonight. She has to spend all her time with him now. Eventually, her friends give up and stop calling and texting. In return, she feels alone, isolated, and confined. Still, she doesn't know what to do, and no one is around to help her because her friends have given up. She's trapped in an abusive and controlling relationship with no ideas about how to get out. There are countless stories, just like this one, happening in the hallways of our nation's schools every day. Young women between the ages of 16 and 24 are at the greatest risk for intimate partner violence. And yet, these subtle stories of abuse are often going unnoticed. Many young people just do not know how to prevent teen dating violence or how to recognize abuse. And even if they do, they have no idea what to do in the end to help it. Here's what you can do when you don't like who you're dating. How big is the issue? According to a 2017 meta-analysis of teens ages 13 to 18, around 14% of girls have experienced sexual dating violence, compared to 8% of boys. Over 1 in 5 adolescents have experienced physical dating violence at some point in their lives. Among high schoolers specifically, nearly 8% of teens who date experience physical abuse each year. These numbers are more than just statistics. They represent an epidemic. An alarming number of young people will experience relationship abuse in some form long before they even enter college. But a large majority have no idea how to identify abuse. And even if they did, they may not know how to handle it. In fact, 58% of college students say dating violence is difficult to identify, and 58% have no idea how to help someone who has experienced it. For these reasons, it is essential that teen dating violence prevention occurs long before young people get serious about dating. To prevent teen dating violence, parents and educators need to cultivate a deeper and truer understanding of what teen dating violence is, especially among preteens and very young teens. Here are 9 things you can do to prevent teen dating violence. Teen dating violence. What makes them do it? When it comes to preventing teen dating violence, the ultimate goal is to stop violence before it ever begins. As a result, the most effective prevention begins by educating preteens and young teens about how to form healthy relationships with others. It also involves teaching them important life skills like assertiveness and solid communication skills. They also should learn how to disagree with others in a healthy and respectful way. help teens recognize major warning signs. Abuse and bullying in a dating relationship involve way more than just hitting, kicking, slapping, and punching. In fact, most abusive relationships start out with subtle signs that may teens mistake for love. The most common warning signs are displaying jealousy, asking for passwords to others' devices or accounts, and insisting on spending every free moment together. Now, don't get me wrong. You want to spend as much time with your other partner or significant other, that is great. But blocking the other person from seeing their friends or family is when you know that the situation has gotten out of hand. Teach your students and friends that any act of control or violence is a warning sign, and they may need to reconsider the relationship. Even if the other person apologizes and promises to never do it again, because more than likely, they will. Controlling behaviors and violence in a relationship usually do not improve or go away. Instead, the behavior often escalates. 1. Keep your loved ones in the loop. Always let friends and family members know when you plan to go out on a date. Give all of the proper information about where you're going, who you're going with, including your date's name and phone number, and when you expect to be home. If anything changes regarding your whereabouts during the course of the evening, let them know right away. Safety tip number 2, provide your own transportation. Have a family member, friend, or drive your own car. And not only will you have a quick getaway if things get weird, but you're also keeping your home address hidden from your date. Safety dating tip number 3, meet in a safe environment. Meet in a familiar restaurant, coffee shop, or anywhere at a time where a lot of people will be present. Not only will this decrease your chances of being put in an unsafe situation, but other people may also remember you being in that location in the event something does happen to you. Dating safety tip number 4, don't give out personal information. When on a date with someone you don't know that well, it is best to give them the least amount of personal information as possible, such as the school you attend, your home address, workplace, and anything else that is personal until you feel comfortable with the person and you have gotten to know them better. Dating safety tip number 5, carry some protection. Now, I know a lot of people might think it's over the top, but carrying some pepper spray or mace in your purse or on your person when you go on a first date is a good move in case you get attacked or you're just in an unsafe situation. These are some of the best ways to best protect yourself on a date. That's not to say that all dates could end this way, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this information was helpful and beneficial. Bye!